Good evening to all our viewers and listeners, and welcome to another edition of the Lall Show on Kaieteur Radio. Good evening. My name is Shakima Day, and I will be your moderator this evening. So, with that quick introduction, I'd just like to dive into a few housekeeping matters. You can call or text us on 622 or you can comment or send whatever questions or queries you have on our Facebook page, Kaieteur Radio, where we are live streaming this program. So, without further ado, I'd like to hand you over to our the man of the hour, Mr. Glenn Lall. He'd just like to tell you guys the topic for this evening. We're talking about fish and Guyana's fishing industry. So, over to you, Mr. Lall.
Thank you, Shakima. Good evening, Guyana. Wherever you are, in and out. I just want to begin by telling you, I don't remember which one of the religious book that says, without a vision, the people perish. Without a vision, the people perish. And before I begin to tell you or talk to you about the topic tonight, about our fishing industry, where it is and where we will be very soon with it, I just wanted to tell you that I just picked up one of the newspapers, today's newspaper, and they had a headline that reads, Guyana's future bright with oil and gas. And who is saying this? Mr. Kyle Greenidge. He says public support necessary for strengthening the institution. I didn't see that headline. I just saw it before I came in here. I just want to tell you, and I wanted to tell Mr. Kyle Greenidge, the future is bright, yes, with oil and gas, for him and the leaders, not the people of this country. They want you to believe that oil and gas will be putting Guyana on the map under their leadership. But that's not so. We're going to talk about that a little later if I get the time. But allow me to get down into tonight's program, tonight's business on the fishing industry. A few weeks ago, I briefly touched on the fishing industry because of what I heard AFC leader Sir Kemraj Ramjatan said about a fishing license that was granted by this government to a local guy. What irked me was when I heard him say he writes the minister to explain why he issued that fish license. And the next day, he told the media he is putting the fish license issuance, we're going to talk, to the National Assembly to be discussed. When I heard that, I say he was taking a single fish license to the National Assembly rather than the bigger picture of the industry itself. Or them one-sided, lopsided oil contracts, them sign. When I heard that he's taking that instead of these oil contracts, it made my skin grow. The whole fishing industry, Guyana, is gone. Right now, the fish catch has gone down by 40%. And in another 5 years, Guyana will have to import fish to eat with what is going on out there with those oil companies. Let me explain a little of how we find ourselves in this dilemma. Many countries with oil suffer and suffer dearly on this industry. For example, Brazil, in the southeastern coast of Brazil, fish has decreased by 90%. You hear me? 90%. Oil spill in 2000. It made no one could have fished for several months. And when the oil company them told the fishermen that they can go back and fish, the men them, when they catch the fish, nobody buys it. They didn't buy it because they were afraid of the poison the fish would have consumed. In Ghana, the oil companies took away many fishing zones from the citizens, leaving the people fishless. Oil even affected the United Kingdom, a first world country. Some countries in Europe, in Mexico, parts of Australia, all these countries, the oil affected their fishing industry. But in Nigeria, them right now importing fish to eat. You hear me? Shakimi, you hear that?
Yes, sir.
Right. Nigeria is importing fish right now to eat. Guyana is already there. Let me share some of the main reason for the destruction of this vital industry that has our fishermen very concerned over their future and their livelihood. One of the reasons for this drop in fish is something called seismic survey. What is this thing called seismic survey? What it means, what it does. Brothers and sisters, it maps the seabed to find oil using a powerful air gun that shoots the floor at the bottom of the ocean. And the sound vibration them get back will determine whether there is oil, water, or gas. You have a 500 gallon water tank at your home. You can't see inside the tank whether it is full or how much water you have inside. You just knock at the side, you just knock it bang bang to hear the sound. And that knock just tell you how much water there in the tank. You just know exactly how far the tank has water. It's the sound. The sound is what makes you know. Just like the water tanks, our oil out there sits in big tanks, but that is called basins. Deep water, the ocean floor, and of course, we have many basins out there. Many basins out there. So for the oil people to know which basin has oil and how much oil is in the basin, they have to knock it one by one. All of them under the seabed. This kind of knocking, however, is completely different from knocking a water tank. If you follow me clearly what I'm saying. They are not knocking them basin with hands. They are using sophisticated equipment to produce that sound. They are using, like I said, air guns to hit the seabed very hard. The sound from the air guns is so loud, Guyana, and detrimental. It can kill humans who may be diving in and around the zone. it kills all the fishes in the neighborhood or surroundings and other marine life. It kills the plants and things like that. It kills the krill, which the fish feeds on. So basically, it is killing every living thing within the eco zone. Another detriment to the sea life is the poisonous well cuttings. What well cuttings mean, brothers and sisters? When they drill holes for the oil, the substance, the soil that comes up is called cuttings. It's like digging a hole to bury a man. You see jump through your window. The mud you dig up is called cuttings. That cuttings is being thrown back into the seabed, which form into little mountains. That cuttings contains poison from the drilling fluids and chemicals, including mercury, that kills all the fish in that zone. Hear this one, Guyana. Let's say some of the fishes that consume those poisonous fluids doesn't die, and our fishermen catch them and we eat them. What you think will happen to you? You will then understand what is RIP. You know what is RIP, Shakima?
Yes, sir.
Right. Rest in peace. And if you don't dead, trust me, you will become a burden on your family, the hospitals, and onto the state. Just like how the Brazilians refused to buy the fish because the people were afraid. They were afraid of living in the hospitals or death. Another contributor to the marine environment is ballast water. Many people in this country doesn't know what is ballast water. Growing up in Wakenham, where I come from, I used to be in cargo boats fetching pumpkin, eddos, greens and vegetables, coconut. Boats used to come from Wakenham to Georgetown, Stelling, fetching cargo. And those boats, sometimes when I go back empty, you got to throw in water. And that water is called ballast water. Ballast water is thrown in a tank, the tank of the boats or the ships, to balance the boat. In the oil industry, they pick up the water, pour it into the tankers, coming here to Guyana to pick up the oil. Now, where they pick up that water, whether they pick it up in Singapore, in China, in Africa, in India, or any foreign country, wherever they're selling this oil, it comes here with microorganism, eggs, small fishes, and other types of marine life, which does not blend with our marine life here. When they dumped the water in our ocean to pick up the cargo, it has the potential to destroy our local seafoods. You hear that, Guyana? It has been proven around the world, even here in the Caribbean. Then we have something called produced water. which is even more destructive than ballast water. What them pick up and throw out there. Produced water is what comes up with the oil as they extract it from the ocean floor. And as they separate the oil from the water, they used poisonous chemicals during that process. That poisonous water with oil is then released back into the sea. It's like when to bring up the oil, they have to use chemicals and fluid on the drill bits to cut through the seabed to get to the oil. And when it comes up, the same chemicals and the poisonous fluids comes up, and that throws back into the ocean. That kills seafood products. The oil will drift to land. Oil will drift to land, of course, with a spill on our beaches. And the mangroves, which is the breeding ground for our fishes, will be destroyed. Oil spills and oil-based products. Nowhere in the world where you have oil rigs, you will ever see clean water without oil inside. There will always be leaks, whether small or large. Pollution is always part of drilling and production of oil. It's like a cheese factory. Always you will see cheese on the floor. Or a sawmill. Sawmill, you will always see dust. You will never pick up a piece of wood without it having sawdust on it. Everybody knows Exxon bringing up oil, and they are continuing with more of the seismic surveys out there in other oil blocks, which would of course widen the kill zones as they move forward. Let me demonstrate the deadly effect it has on our fishing industry since 2012. And this is a breakdown from 2012 to 2015. One trawler back in those days used to catch 30,000 pounds of seafood products every 6 to 7 days. From 2016, it started to fall. One trawler, same 6 to 7 days, began bringing in 23,000 pounds from 30,000 pounds. In 2017, they brought in 22,000 pounds. In 2018, 22,000 pounds, same 6 and 7 days. In 2019, it dropped to 19,000 pounds, same 6 and 7 days. And in 2020, just a few months ago, 2020 finished, it fell from 19,000 in 2019 to 12,000 pounds Some boats, I'm told, now making 4 and 5,000 pounds per trip. And they're even staying longer outside on the sea for bringing that 4 and 5,000 pounds per trip. The fishermen them saying, dragging their nets now on the seabed is like dragging your feet on your house floor. Well, of course, if it's clean. But my house floor clean. So it's like dragging their nets on my house floor. Clean. Little or nothing is there now. Nothing. That tells us the fishing industry is on its way out. You hear that, Guyana? The fishing industry is on its way out. We will have to import fish very soon to eat. That's the dilemma Guyana faces right now. Them protecting the rich man that thieving 99% of our oil wealth. You hear me clearly? Our leaders are protecting the rich man that thieving 99% of our oil wealth and neglecting the poor fisherman and them belly. Just to let you know, also Guyana, besides providing jobs for fishermen and them family, and all who depend on this industry for a living, it is a doomsday coming. A doomsday coming. And you must know, the fish exports alone brings in, for last year, 81 million US. The fishing industry alone bringing 81 million US. Is not Lall saying so. The minister said so only today. Today the minister said so. I have the Guyana Chronicle in my hand. And that's the lead story in the Guyana Chronicle. Fishing industry nets 16.2 billion Guyana dollar, which is equivalent to 81 million US dollar. I want you guys to listen to me clearly, carefully. The fishing industry gives Guyana 81 million US in our budget. And our oil, our 1% oil money, gives us in 2019 $185 million. Our 1% give us 185 million US, while fish give you 81 million alone. With very few Guyanese employed on that oil company. Now, if you juxtapose how many people, how many Guyanese depend on the fishing industry, how many fishermen we have out there, and how many people make an extra dollar or a living off the fishing industry, and them can bring in 81 million. You get 185 on the oil in 2015 with very few Guyanese employed. I don't know. I can't fathom. I really don't understand how we juxtapose that. How we equate. How do we explain that? How our leaders plan to deal with this disaster? You know, I was told by many people to please do not address our leaders as morons. And I plan to stop that. So from tonight, I want to address our leaders with sirs. So, sirs, I want to hear from all of you. I want to hear from Sir Irfan Ali, Sir Bharat Jagdeo, Sir Robert Prasad, Sir David Granger, Sir Joseph Harman, Sir Raphael Trotman, Sir David Patterson, Sir Kemad Ramjatan. Please, I want you guys address this issue. I was, I was even told that you guys are respectable, you're decent and smart. So please, you need to tell this nation how we will deal with this issue and how we can get those fishermen back on the sea so that they can eke out a living. Remember, it will bring an additional burden. This thing will bring an additional burden to our health system. Because when you get sick with the poison fish, the cost will end up in our hospitals and medical bills. So please don't forget that. You need to add that into the equation, and let's hear from you people how you are planning to deal with this issue. I myself would like to hear who and how Guyana will be compensated for this great loss, sirs. Let me ask this, sirs. When we lost that 81 million in export revenue and another 104 million import cost for fish to eat, it is 185 million. So Guyana get 185 million from oil, and the 81 million we get from the revenue, and the 104 we buy this fish, it squares out there, 185. So what kind of business we doing here, sirs? You do the maths. Do the maths. And I did not include medical bills here and other destructions to our country. Like to clean up, and the other negatives effect it will have in our waters and our beaches, and the many other unforeseen costs unknown. Sir, I want to hear from our leaders. So, there you go, Guyana. That's my take on the fishing industry in Guyana. So let me hear, you guys must have a few questions so that we can take this discussion a little further and in a very frank manner.
All right, so at this point, before we dive into the questions, we'll take a very quick commercial break and we'll be right back. Welcome back to the Lall Show on Kaieteur Radio. I am your moderator for this evening, Shakima Day, and we just had a very fruitful discussion about Guyana's oil and gas industry and the effect it has on our fishing industry. So before we get into the questions, I just a few housekeeping matters. You can send your texts, your comments on 62222. We want to hear from you. Whatever questions or comments or queries you have, we would be very happy to answer those. You can also comment on our Facebook Live on Kaieteur Radio's Facebook page. Whatever questions, comments you have about the topic at hand, or whatever you want to know about your oil and Guyana's fishing industry, we will try to assist. So, Mr. Lall, I have a question here. Someone would like to know if there is a better or safer way to conduct a seismic survey without any damage being done to marine life.
Oh, the seismic survey, how that is done, before I answer the question, yes, there is a better and safer way. There is newer technology, I am told, to carry out these seismic survey. It's very expensive, and knowing these oil companies, how ExxonMobil operate, to invest on a more expensive technology or equipment, they will never do that. You see, they'll never do that because they have no regard or respect for us. And what they will do, they will try to take every single drop of oil they can get here for next to nothing. So to invest in newer technology will be putting more cost onto them. You know, and I could tell you, Shakima, we had this issue of paying $1,500 fine that ExxonMobil refused to pay. They wanted us to go to court for $1,500. That's 300,000 Guyana dollar fine EPA implemented on them. Look, that is how low and cheap they are. They have been flaring the gas out there for 6 months because of a default they had on the compressor, and that part cost 300,000 US. That's what they say. And they took almost 6-7 months to get that part flying here. So if they don't want to spend these little money on things that can benefit Guyana and benefit the world at large, because of course when you flare, you pollute the atmosphere. But who gets affected first? Guyanese. We are not nobody. We are nothing to them. So they don't care to listen. They would spend as little as they can to take out as much as they can. And this is how people, greedy people behave. Decent, compromising people do not do that. Loving and caring people don't do that. People don't come to your place and take advantage. They will try their best to protect and safeguard you. But as you asked that question about the different ways how we can protect or use with this seismic survey, you need, a lot of people don't understand what it is and how deadly it is. I talk a little there, but it's heavier than that. It's deeper than that. When they're carrying out these survey under the seafloor there, Shakima, you see that air gun they use. That air gun is situated under under the boat, under this well, it's a boat, and that as they map the floor, as they're looking for those oil tanks or oil basins, it's like a bang. They shoot it bang, 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 bang. Every 5 to 10 seconds, they shoot it bang. Another 10 seconds, bang, and that bang vibrates and sends shock waves miles away. Like I said earlier, one of those bang can kill a diver or kill a human being instantly if they are in and around that neighborhood. So you can imagine when they are mapping an area. Let's take Lisa 1 for example. When they were mapping around there to find where they have to drill to go down to get the oil, that entire neighborhood, as they were banging, not a single living thing, nothing can make it there. So when they move on to Lisa 2 and Payara, and then they continue to the rest of the wells, it's like anything in and around that neighborhood will be shattered, will be completely destroyed. Right? Mm-hmm. So today's technology there is technology that they can use. It comes with a little more money, but like I said, who cares? They don't care. It's like if you know you can buy a sledgehammer to break a wall that doesn't disturb your neighbor or affect your neighbor. Yeah, you'll use that. You understand? Mm-hmm. But if there's another equipment you can use to don't disturb your neighbor, but it costs a little more, you'd go buy it. You understand? Well, they don't want to buy that. They're using the old technology. They don't. You just kill everything and go. And this is what is causing destruction to our marine life.
Okay, thank you for that answer. Mr. Francis, I believe you have a question. For our listeners and viewers, we have Mr. Francis with us in the studio this evening, and he has a question for Mr. Lall.
Yeah, Mr. Lall, what about the cuttings which has been infected with all the various chemical fluids in the mud engineering process? What do you think can be done to remove or stop the poison of the cuttings?
That's the cuttings that comes up, drilling the holes. Oh, I don't think, I am not an expert. I'll pass with that one. I'll probably ask ExxonMobil or the oil companies to answer that question, or maybe somebody from the Department of Energy to answer that question. What can be done with that? No, I pass on that question. I'm not the expert in that one. I don't know what can be done, and I don't know. I'll pass on that question.
You have any more questions, Mr. Francis?
Yeah, well, what about the oil pollution and the damage to our coastal area, especially the mangroves?
Well, that's a nice question. That's a beautiful question. So you're asking if anything can be done to prevent the pollution with our mangroves and, of course, our beaches and our land. Yes, I think so. I think there are methods they can use. Again, I think that comes with expenses that will cost a few pennies. Whether Exxon wants to spend that money, I don't know, but they should, because I think they can use, because if you look around the oil countries, what they did, or what they made the oil companies them do, is that they put a ring. You ever see it? They put a ring around the whole oil field, so that helps to capture the oil that
Floats on top of
that floats off that releases, that escapes while you drill, right? And while you do production. Because like I said, once you do production, oil have to spill. Once you drill, oil have to spill. But what they do to protect the country or protect the thing, they put a buoy around
Boom,
it.
boom, oil boom.
Or boom,
A
or,
boom.
or boom, right. And you know, they have it floating to hold in all the leakage and things. But it will spill. It will spill. You will have, but it helps to protect us from that great loss or danger.
Because the mangrove is the breed is the nursery for many species of the sea life is, and the mangroves is, especially fishes, is a breeding ground for them.
Perfect. The mangroves is the breeding ground for almost all the species out there. And when you destroy that with the oil, because if oil floats in here, little by little floats in here, it destroys that. You know, the mapping itself, those boom, right? It even cause the mass. You know, these mass.
Sea moss, yeah.
Right, the sea moss that fishes lay in. You know, coming from Wakeland, I grew up catching fish, so I understand. You have these hassa, the hassiness. They're gonna fit themselves on the sea moss and they make this big, huge hassiness. So, but the banging, right? The constant banging with the mapping of the seabed, looking for the oil and gas, that breaks up. The shock, it carries you, it destroys the mass up top, and then that floats away. So when that floats away, then where does this fish go and hatch? There's no way.
What I use it, the sound waves could burst your eardrums. Imagine what it does. One of the boom from the sound could damage your eardrum. So imagine what it does to the seafood, the sea life, constantly every 5 seconds, every 5 to 10 seconds.
Correct. It damages humans' eardrum. A matter of fact, I'm told that dolphins.
One of the reasons that dolphins and the whales that they beach themselves because of the safety, it kills them. The
Right.
dolphins and the whales, yes.
Right. So I think we have a few whales out there that already diminished, disappeared. You don't have we don't have any whales or any kind of
Dolphin.
there. We don't have any because with the amount of mapping and the seismic survey they would have been doing from quite a while now. It kills a lot.
Oh.
So not much they have.
All
Yes.
right. All right, Mr. Lall, I have another question here for you. Someone would like to know if there is any way that we can prevent the ballast water from affecting our local seawater or to avoid fishes from being from dying.
The ballast water.
Yes.
How we can avoid that? I'd ask somebody that question. Yes, I think we can. We can avoid it. We can avoid losing fish by correcting that ballast water. They instead of picking up water from, let's say, India or China or wherever they go, pick up the salt water there. They can go for fresh water, sweet water you call it. But of course you gotta pay for that. And again, would Exxon want to pay for that?
Mhm.
If Exxon doesn't want to pay $1,500 fine, you think you'll pay for for couple tanks of water for the boat? And if you buy that water, you can also you also put it in sealed tanks under the ship so that stays there. So you can go and come with that at all times. So you don't have to go pick up every trip. You pick up from Indonesia, or you pick up from China or the Middle East, and you bring their water and you pour it out here. That affects our fishing industry.
Mm-hmm.
You understand?
Mhm.
So yes, they can if they use fresh water. But like I said, they're not gonna pay for it.
Mhm.
if I have a boat and I have to pick up some cargo from Hog Island to bring to the city, and I gotta go back to Hog Island and I gotta pump water into the boat, I ain't going to buy no water from Banks DIH for pour into that tank. I take in water from the sea. But with the destruction of our marine life, oil companies should spend that money to protect our marine. But unfortunately, they're not doing that. So we are faced with that dilemma in which it destroys the fishing industry. I'm not an expert in the fishing industry. It's just because Mr. Ramjatan talked about the fish license, and it irked me. And I talked to a few fishermen, and they began telling me what's happening.
What did they tell you?
Well, the first thing, they were more furious and upset than me, because what they said was this man, this sir, upset and funny voice because he was silent at the time on anything, and you suddenly hear him, but he before, and then they're the ones who start telling me he should focus on the fishing industry. He should pick up and put a paper to the National Assembly in which the leaders can sit down and discuss the fishing industry, because it going downwards. It's them who sit down with me and explain to me. Hence, I decide to hold this show. And after they start talking about the depletion and the diminishing of our in the fishing industry, I began to ask questions, and hence I know that the oil operation is what is killing the industry. But our leaders would want to tell you, no, it's not so. That's why I did a little research, come to sit here. Because I know whatever I said here, not even ExxonMobil can dispute anything I said here. You understand? Or our leaders. They can't. Because what every word I said here is fact. They have to find a way how to deal with it. They have to find a way how they will compensate all the fishermen and compensate the Guyanese people. Because of course I want to eat fish. You know, while putting my thoughts together to bring the show, one of the staff bring up a box of fried fish. And I had a friend walk in, and he said, man, you hungry, you want to taste the fish. So I told him I'm doing this fish thing. He said, yes, I heard about it. He said, could I have a piece of fish? Because this might be the last piece of fish I eat in Guyana. And I had to laugh. I ended up laughing. Yeah.
I have a better question, Mr. Lall.
Yeah.
The Environmental Protection Agency, shouldn't that be protecting Guyanese? Do you think they're more concerned protecting Guyanese and Guyanese environment, or they're protecting ExxonMobil's profits?
No, well, I think so far what I have heard, and I have seen them. I've seen a few of the people who are responsible for. Thank you. Who are responsible for the environment and our seabeds and stuff like that. They're very vocal. They understand what's playing out here. But I believe that they mean good for Guyana. They want to see good for Guyana. But they're just environmentalists. They are not the people who are making the rules and making the decisions. Our leaders, our sirs, and our madams are making this decision. Because I read all the time, they complain bitterly almost every week on what's going on. We have a giant for a young lady, Miss Melinda Janke. She has been very vocal on so many things. You understand? And she is an environmentalist and an international lawyer. She understands the oil
Right, but
industry.
I'm talking about Environmental Protection Agency of Guyana.
Yes.
She doesn't work for the Environmental Protection
No.
Agency.
the environmental protection aid, or you're talking about the agency itself,
Yes,
the government agency.
Yes, the government, they are supposed to protect the environment for Guyanese. It's written in our constitution that we deserve clean air.
I can't help talking about it, you know. We had a gentleman named Vincent Adams.
Yes, he was the head of the EPA.
That man held ExxonMobil.
Yes.
And tell them plain, I am not approving this until we get insurance, unlimited insurance to protect Guyana on Payara alone. Okay? He had no say on Lisa 1 and Lisa 2. We are not even insured. So if you have a spill from Lisa 1 and Lisa 2, trust me, God help Guyana. And God help if it caused destruction and damages to other nearby nations like
Venezuela, Trinidad,
Brazil, Trinidad, and elsewhere. Because what that means for Guyana, without an insurance, it means that Guyana
has to pay.
will owe those nations for centuries to come.
Billions of US dollars, hundreds of billions of US
Right, and
dollars.
that will run into hundreds of billions. So we had people who could have stand up, right, and stand up for Guyana. But guess what? The PPP come and kick the man out. Okay? They're kicking out the right. In some places they're kicking out square pegs. That's I can understand that. But why are you kicking out people who is really meant and bent in protecting Guyana and our country? You know?
It would seem.
Look, you know, when people ask me about Carl Greenwich, you know, he shouldn't be there. He shouldn't be making no decision in this oil industry. And I'll say this from now until I die. Because he is part of our problem, not ExxonMobil. And that is something I know. Maybe I'll talk what I know later in the programs to come. These are people who don't mean good for Guyana.
All right, Mr. Lall, I have another question here for you. Someone would like to know why isn't the government showing any alacrity to upgrade our Guyana's legislative framework with regards to the oil sector?
Why? What?
They would like to know why isn't the government trying to update Guyana's legislative framework with regards to the oil sector?
I talked about a few things. I think the last program I talked about a depletion policy. How much Guyana can lose out without having a depletion policy in place, without having proper provisions in place to safeguard Guyana. And I'm glad that that individual asked that question. And you should have answered that question, Shakima.
I'll let you answer that, Mr. Lall.
Because somebody is doing that story tomorrow, in which IDB gave Guyana a loan of 11 million US plus to rectify our laws and our clause and our provisions to help us build capacity to strengthen the oil sector. And the coalition government, well, I don't know if it's Carl Greenwich did it, they refused to take the $11 million. And guess what? Only today we are told, or I'll find out, that $11 million, one of the most important ingredient for lending us that 11 million US was to put that depletion policy in place. You hear me? You hear me, Shakima?
Yes, sir.
The people lend you $11 million to install a depletion policy for Guyana, and the people send back the money. So what that tells you? They don't want to install provisions that will safeguard Guyana into the laws of this country. I'm happy for that question. And I'll probably tell the individual to read the entire story in tomorrow Kaieteur News. You see how things are happening? Things are happening like boom, like just like that. Just a few days ago, the last program I talked about depletion policy, how we can lose 3/4 of Guyana without having one in place. And today we are told that money was loaned to us to fix that. And the coalition government sent back the money, said we don't really want that. But guess what? They will go borrow money for build some project in which they can thief out half of it. That's what our leaders are doing. You understand what I'm saying? To put together the depletion policy, you can't thief from there, okay? You gotta bring the people and show IDB, say, hey, well, I pay Glenn Lall, or I pay David Granger, or I pay Jagdeo. Oh, sorry, the SORs, to put a depletion policy in place. But they don't want that. They want to borrow money to put in projects in which they can steal.
You see, a depletion policy is also, it's for the benefit of the country, not for the benefit of the oil company. But it seems like the politicians are more doing what please to benefit the oil companies rather than benefit the country.
Exactly, beautiful. Exactly what I said. A depletion policy, if you listen to my program, I said that is to safeguard Guyana. You understand? But they didn't put that in place.
All right. So as the minutes are winding down to the program, Mr. Lall, I'd like to ask you for closing statements. You just sum up all that you said throughout the program, and for the persons who've now joined us.
To summarize what I said here.
Yes.
Wow. What I said there in a nutshell, the oil companies, the oil operation out there, and I doubt whether anything can be done. When you take into consideration the operation itself, the oil industry itself, sitting outside in the waters of any country, it will affect your marine life, your fishing industry. And that is what I said there. The operations out there, what they're doing there will clean our waters. We will have no fish. We'll have to import fish, just like I said, Nigeria is importing fish now after having oil for over 60, 70 years. Trinidad operation has affected their fishing ground too. So I don't know. I'm asking my leaders, our leaders, to address this situation, because you have thousands of people's lives at stake here, because they have to eat, they have to live. We have to continue to eat fish too, and if that is threatened and will be diminished, then I don't know. We have to get some kind of compensation from the oil industry, and not only compensation for the fishing industry that is lost. There are many other industries that will fall on the wayside, which will affect we locals, and our leaders need to look into these things. I think our leaders are sleeping. Like Kaieteur said, Trinidad lost billions of dollars while they were sleeping at the wheels. I think our leaders are sleeping at the wheels, and all they're concerned with is about what is there for them. And they keep every day misleading the nation through their friendly media houses and maybe wherever they go. But God help Guyana if they don't wake up.
Alrighty then, so there you have it, the closing statements from our man of the hour, Mr. Glenn Lall. And with that, you've come to the end of the Glenn Lall show right here on Kaieteur Radio. You can join us next week, same time, same place, for another fruitful discussion on what is happening in our country and what is happening with your wealth. Have a wonderful weekend and good night.
Good night, Guyana. If you missed the show, we'll rebroadcast it tomorrow at 11 a.m. And please join me every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, so we can continue discussing in a very frank manner about what's happening with our resources. Thank you once again and have a good night.
Guyana, this is a hijack. Highway robbery.